Good morning, Nigeria. This is Breakfast Extra, where we don't just read the news, we dissect it like Nigerians analyzing a bill in a restaurant to confirm who ordered what. Now, today we're looking at two stories that should make us rejoice and scream and shout, yay! I'm talking about 24 Kebbi schoolgirls kidnapped, released after 1 week, and 38 choir church worshippers abducted and released after 5 days. Now, both sound beautiful and inspiring, right? But like every Nigerian teacher used to say while marking mathematics scripts, don't just give me the answers, show your working. And my people, it's that working that is giving us headache this morning. So let's look at it. Step one, the miraculous escape. Nobody saw anything. The Kebbi state government said the 24 girls were released after intense pressure by security forces. Wonderful phrase, right? Very cinematic. But here's what the facts say. No reported clash, no documented rescue operation, no bandits camp raided, no kidnapper arrested. So where exactly was this intense pressure applied? Was it emotional pressure? I mean, like, did the kidnapper just sit down and say, hey, you know what, oh, we feel bad, let's just release them before we get hypertension? Same with the 38 choir victims. Now, the Punch confirmed their return, right? A lot of other platforms confirmed it. But again, no details of any operation. Just they regained their freedom. That's all we got. My brothers and sisters, this is Nigeria's favorite magic trick. Victims appear, kidnappers disappear, government claps for itself. That's what we see every time. Let's look at step two. Was ransom paid? Now, this is Nigeria's gray area. Let's stick to the facts. Neither Kebbi nor choir officials admitted paying ransom. They also did not say ransom wasn't paid. Now, in Nigeria, that silence is loud enough to wake our ancestors. Because we know, according to multiple past kidnapping reports, that bandits do not just release people out of kindness. It's not a charity organization. They don't do buy 24 and get one free. So if no ransom was paid, excellent. Show us the process. Show us evidence. Show us the working. If ransom was paid by families or communities, at least acknowledge the reality. But right now, the story is given group project where only one person did the work, but everyone collects the A. Let's look at the third step. Where are the kidnappers? Ghost mode. Let's analyze this like a jam question. If A abducts B and B returns home without A being arrested, calculate how serious, A thinks the Nigerian government is. You both Kebbi and choir, right? No suspects paraded, no arrests confirmed, no identities revealed, no ongoing manhunt reported. I mean, even petty thieves that steal plantain in the market get more media attention. So I ask again, if 24 girls were taken from a school and 38 adults were taken from a church, who took them? Where are they? Who is answering for these crimes? Because if kidnappers keep kidnapping and returning victims without consequence, then Nigeria has turned into a revolving door and not a country. Step four, transparency, permanent suspension. Now, here's the fact. We know that they were released, right? But we do not know how they were released, who negotiated, what was exchanged, whether money changed hands, whether the kidnappers are even being pursued at the moment. Now, this is not transparency. This is Nigerian government saying, just take the answer, don't stress us. But as citizens, we must stress them, because if we don't understand the process, then we cannot trust the outcome. I mean, even WAEC markers reject correct answers with no workings, right? But somehow we're expected to accept national security solutions without any workings. Let's be honest with ourselves. Most Nigerians don't feel safer today than they were last week. Yes, we thank God the girls and the worshippers are back, but nobody can confidently say the kidnappers won't return tomorrow. So when the government hides the process, the people lose trust. When nobody's arrested, the criminals gain confidence. When ransom stories hide in the shadows, kidnapping becomes business. This is not drama. This is not exaggeration. This is Nigeria's lived reality. We celebrate the return of all our victims. We're grateful for their safety, but Nigeria must stop giving us answers without steps, because answers without steps only work in primary school math, not in national security. Until the government explains how these releases happened, who negotiated with them, whether ransom was paid, and where the kidnappers are, we will continue solving the same problem every term. Nigerian government, I beg, show you're working. On that note, I'll say welcome to Breakfast Extra. I am Chiwete Onyia, but I'm not alone as usual. Judith is here. Judith, how are you doing?
Fine, good morning. 5 steps to the government, as if they've given you 24-hour power and giving them 5 steps. Anyway, Chiwete, good morning. Good, you're laughing.
I didn't see that coming, but then I think it's only right for us to just, ask the right questions.
Well, of course, and that's our job here, and that's what we intend to do this morning. So let's get started, shall we?
Let's go.
And a very good morning to you and welcome to Breakfast Extra. It's the last weekend in November, a prelude to Dirty December. And I must say, outside is outsiding. And we are here, by the way, to bring you the stories, the conversations, and insights shaping Nigeria and the world. As always, we have a full and important lineup for you today. And we will begin with a developing report on the closure of Unity schools in Plateau State, with government officials insisting that the shutdown will not affect the academic calendar, even as insecurity deepens. From there, we broaden the conversation to insecurity and education as well, and how repeated prolonged school closures threaten Nigeria's educational future. We'll also examine President Tinubu's emergency declaration on insecurity and the renewed push for state police as a possible path to restoring peace and rebuilding public confidence. We'll switch to our wellness segment of the program this morning, where we'll be marking World AIDS Day. It happens on the 1st of December, and we're focusing on the message, treatment saves lives. We'll break down why prevention, early testing, and lifelong care remain critical, plus how the science do matter. And finally, we'll spotlight the ongoing reality of violence against women in Nigeria, the urgent issues, the gaps, and the real solutions needed to protect women and girls across the country. Like I said, it's a packed show, and every topic today goes to the heart of Nigeria's safety, health, and future. Chiwete is here with us. Chiwete, good morning.
Good morning to you, Judith. It's quite sad when we look at situations happening in the country. I know back in the day, what somehow became a norm for us is, when it comes to primary school, even secondary school, you're not likely to face you don't necessarily see a reason for you to just, put a pause on your academic session. You're probably going to face that when you get to university, of course, as a strike will be waiting for you. But now, seeing what's happening in our secondary schools is quite alarming and scary at the same time.
It is scary. I was on the family WhatsApp group, my sister, out of 6 siblings, 2 of us went to Unity schools, all right? So I went to federal school.
Same here.
Exactly. And then yours was, where was it?
It was Ilorin, actually.
Ilorin,
yeah.
I thought it was Ikene. I want to say here. So moving on, Shai. Don't mind this. So my sister went to Calabar and I went to Shagamu. Oh. And I do remember that because of the students who reside or who are permanent residents of Lagos, every time the school closes for the term, the Parent Teacher Association Lagos chapter would arrange a bus.
Yeah, they do that.
And the bus would ride from Calabar, from the school, down to Lagos. We had not gotten one issue of kidnapping, anything. The only time that there was a problem was a child who was very ill and she had died on the way coming. So that I think that was the only harrowing experience that the children had to go through, and they didn't realize how severe the illness had been until she passed away just before they arrived into Lagos, right? And so there would be a chaperone either one of the parents or one of the teachers would chaperone the children from Lagos to Calabar, and then from Calabar there would be a parent that would chaperone the children back to Lagos. And my father had been a chaperone many times from Calabar to Lagos, from Lagos to Calabar, and there's either a teacher and then of course the drivers as well, and it's a long coastal bus. Also, I was part of debate clubs and other clubs in school as well, and excursions, and so also exchange programs where you go to different unity schools, and we would travel via roads. This was late 90s, early 2000s, right? I can only imagine now how that school and those schools that have children and you know, and then the clubs as well, how they have to pay extra for logistics, not just to ferry the children via road, because the flights are expensive.
It's crazy.
Expensive. Right, I was at the airport. It is wild how much we're spending, right? Just take that away now. The bus is the cheaper alternative and maybe the only alternative, but it's no more safe. And I can only imagine what parents have to do to get their children to school safely and back. Then, like I said, it was only a parent that was chaperone, but now I can only imagine.
The issue is even the fact that we don't even know what's going to happen, even if, okay, for some reason, we don't have this kidnappings anymore, and they say, okay, students return back to school, right? What's going to happen after then? Are we going to have soldiers mounted as security guards in front of school gates? And you know, like unity schools, I think also the fact that the way they've been built, the fences, most time because of space, the fences are low, it's really hard for you to actually fence the whole school round because of how large and how, you know, how big, you know, the land is. So at the end of the day, what can we really even do to really solve this issue of kidnapping? Are we going to have policemen mount in front of schools? Is that not scary, kind of? You know, people coming to school and seeing guns and seeing, you know, things like that.
I remember an analyst earlier this week I was talking to, they was saying that, you know, when you look at all the schools, especially the unity schools that are northeast, north central and up north there, they're always in the far-flung areas. And oftentimes ungoverned and, you know, deserted somewhat. And those schools were, one of the reasons why they picked those areas was for space, 1, 2, to populate those areas, and 3, boarding schools are supposed to be, in our thinking, away from, you know, from the city center, right? And so you have that community, that thing, right? My own school was a polytechnic before they changed to secondary school. So you can imagine how huge this thing is. It is. We had a regular stadium, like a stadium, right? And when children fell, they would like scathe themselves because it was coal that they used for the tracks. It was huge, massive thing, right? So it was built as a polytechnic, and then sooner or later they changed it to schools. So I say all of this to say that the security may be had, but it can be done. Back in also early 2000s, when we saw the terrorist attacks that was happening across churches and those bomb attacks in those churches, what they did was they did checks, mile checks to the church. Again, I know these things. My mother is Kaduna. I was raised, I also lived in Kaduna. And so when you're going to a church, which was predominantly Catholic Anglican church, that's where we're seeing those attacks, you don't park 3 miles to church. There's no point. You're taking keke. There's no point. And then there's a mile to where you're going to, another mile before, and every mile there are armored cars with full bomb gears. So it can be done. It's just very saddening that our children have to go to school seeing that type of sights, you know, but it's very desensitizing, but it can be done.
All right, so let's get straight into having our conversations. Our first big story coming up next.
And that sign is for a big report. We begin with our first conversation today. We turn to a developing situation in Plateau State. The closure of unity schools following rising insecurity concerns. Earlier this week, the Plateau State Commissioner for Education, Dr. Katrulom Gang, He assured parents and stakeholders that the shutdown will not disrupt the 2025-2026 academic calendar. Now, she emphasized that preventing a crisis is far better than responding to one after tragedy strikes, and that the situation to close the schools was taken strictly for the safety of students and staff.
Now, our correspondent Chizo Banyo found that report from Jos, the Plateau State capital, and she has joined us to share more about what she observed on the ground while putting this story together. Let's now take on that package.
Compliance to the directive on the total closure of all schools in Plateau State has been welcomed with mixed feelings. At the Federal Government College, Bochi Road in Jos, the Plateau State capital, News Central was told off camera that the students vacated the school since Saturday following government directive the previous day. Just like other schools visited, FGC Jos is now a shadow of itself, as neither the students nor the staff was seen within the premises, except for some ununiformed security men. Parents are, however, worried about the effects of these developments on their children and wards.
Soldiers are doing the works of police. Police is virtually not existent. They've called for state police. If the governors could close down schools, they should have some rights to even organize local police on their own.
We don't really know that at the end of the day, maybe if they are back to their respective schools, they have to start afresh or give them some time to refresh themselves, because there is already a gap that certainly some students, when they come back, they will not meet up again.
For me, I commend Plateau State government, even though it's a painful decision, but they had to take it. It's a proactive measure. It's better you have your kids at home than to hear stories, and you never know where they will strike next.
Efforts to get further details from the school authority, including when academic activities will resume, was not successful, as none of the staff was available to speak to our team. In a swift response, the Plateau State Commissioner for Education, Kachalom Gang, said the sudden closure of schools will not affect the 2025-2026 academic calendar.
As they say, prevention is better than cure. We took the action to prevent the children and to also help parents not to panic. I think on our own calendar, schools were to close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. They have finished their lectures. What was left was a week of revision and a week of examination, and then the schools will close. So I believe the action that we have taken will not affect the calendar that much. The second term resumes middle of January, and we are hoping that as they resume, they can do their examination.
As concerned citizens of Nigeria, majorly parents, continue to express their concerns on this development. One would hope that sooner than later, all architecture will be put in place to ensure the safety of these children, even when they go back to school. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyomi.
All right, join us now to have a conversation is the Kalom Gang, the Commissioner for Education in Plateau State. Of course, she'll be helping us understand the government's position and timeline for reopening and what this means for students across the state. Welcome to the program, Madam Commissioner. Can you hear me clearly?
Madam, a very good morning to you and welcome. Honorable Commissioner, if you can hear me, good morning. Good morning.
Sorry, I'm not hearing you. It seems you are muted. I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me?
The News Central media is muted.
I can hear you loud and clear.
I can't hear you.
All right, let's go on a short break. When we come back, we will try to resolve that audio issue. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back. Schools shut down across the north and north central, particularly Plateau State. Honorable Commissioner for Education, Dr. Kachalum Gang, joins us now to give us more insight on the closure and the plan for the future for the students. Honorable Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. I would like to first ask about, the concerns that led to the decision to close the Unity schools at this time. Was there any intelligence that was privy to your disposal to have informed this decision to close?
What I will say is that we are talking of government schools here and not Unity schools. The Unity schools belong to the federal government. We are talking of government and private schools in Plateau State. Yes, before we took the decision to close the schools, we had reports from our special advisor to the governor on security. Because when we started seeing the kidnapping in schools growing from one state to the other, we had to be proactive. If you remember, Plateau State has been on the news negatively because of attacks here and there. Plateau State has been a hot spot. And we thought if we are not proactive and anything happens, we will be blamed. So we discussed with the security special advisor on security to His Excellency. And we decided that it was best to close the schools. Because we don't, it's better to take proactive action than to cry after the harm has been done. So what we did was to save our students and to save our schools. And parents had started calling. Parents were getting jittery. And we didn't want to expose any child to any danger. And that was why we took this proactive decision for the good of everybody, the child in particular, to give the parents, to make the parents to at least with their children, they are more comfortable, and to also help the state so that at least we know we have taken an action and our children are safe. That was what informed our decision. Yes, some discussion with the security was done before we took the decision.
Now, Honorable Commissioner, you've assured that the academic calendar will not be affected. Can you explain what measures have been put in place to ensure that students don't, fall behind?
Hello?
If you can hear me, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I was asking, I said, you've assured that the academic calendar will not be affected. I'd like you to explain, what measures have been put in place to ensure that students do not fall behind.
At the time we closed the schools, most of the lessons for the term had been completed. What was left was revision and examinations, because the schools had barely 3 weeks to close. So we looked at it, and why we have said that the academic calendar will not be affected is because lessons have already been completed. What was remaining was revision and examinations. So what we are planning is that when the school resumes for the second term, they will use the 2 weeks to do their revision and do their exams. Then the second term will resume. And I think we are missing just 2 weeks, which we believe can be covered in the second term. That was why we said that the academic calendar will not be affected. We will resume for the second term at the time we are supposed, the school is supposed to resume. And we are meeting to make sure that security is beefed up before the students resume second week of January. So we are discussing, we have a safe school office here in the state. We are discussing with them. We are putting plans in place to ensure that security is beefed up, the community is sensitized, communities are sensitized, local vigilantes are put on alert so that they can help provide additional security in our various schools in the state. So those are some of the actions that we are taking before the schools resume in January.
Now, during 2020, during the pandemic, we saw alternative learning plans, like virtual classes and e-learning, and also radio classes as well. Is this going to be adopted? Would there be a modified schedule for affected students during the closure?
Yes, what we have for schools that can continue with their lessons online, they have told us that there's no problem. They will do their lessons online. Some will even do their exams online. So those schools will not be affected at all. We are discussing with our television station in the state, and you may be aware that the federal government has released lessons for different classes, both the primary and secondary schools. We are working with SUBEP so that these lessons can be on our radio. We'll fix a time so that the students can listen to those lessons while they are at home. We are also encouraging parents not to keep their children idle. They should utilize this time to make sure that the students still remain active. They study their books, they prepare for their examinations next term when they resume. So the education of the child is not only for the school. Everybody is involved. The parents have their share, the schools have their share, the teachers have their share. And we hope that collectively we'll put our hands together, both as parents, to ensure that, and as the state government, to ensure that learning continues, even while the students are at home during this long holiday. The holiday is long because of the extra weeks that we have closed the school early. So we believe that they will be utilized to keep the students busy so that they can be ready for their examinations when they resume in the second term.
Honorable Commissioner, thank you so much for giving us this information. It's quite important that we hear this from you. However, what assurances can you give parents and even students today that their safety and their education remains top priority despite the security challenges?
Yes, the security challenges do not only affect Plateau State, they affect the whole country. And I'm sure the government of Plateau State is doing its best to improve security, in as much as the federal government is also doing its best. So we want to assure parents that we are making all plans. The final security depends on God. But as man, we will do as much as we can to ensure that when our children resume, they will be safe. We are discussing with the local governments. We will discuss with traditional rulers, security groups in the communities, to take an interest in securing the schools that are within their locations, so that together we can put our hands together and ensure that our children are studying in safe environments. I also want to call on the community and everybody to be vigilant. If you see something, say something. Sometimes we keep quiet until things happen. Then we start giving stories that yes, we saw this, we saw that. We are raising public awareness to let people know that if they see anything, they should say it. It may be just something that may not be serious in the end, but at least they have said something and appropriate action has been taken. So I think it's a collective responsibility. Security is everybody's responsibility. And that is why we are involving everybody, the local governments, the wards, the traditional rulers, the development associations. We all want to, the school-based management committees that we have in our various locations, we want to use all of them. We will come together to ensure that we are on the lookout for any sign of any danger so that appropriate actions can be taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Commissioner Dr. Kachalom Gang, thank you for joining us and for sharing your insight with us. I mean, this is a critical discussion, and the Osset News Center will continue to track developments so far. Thank you once again for staying with us. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, plenty on the other side. Stay with us, don't go anywhere.
Still watching Breakfast Extra. Now, still on the growing national concern and how insecurity is disrupting education across Nigeria. Of course, with the repeated attacks, kidnappings, and rising tensions, several states have now shut down schools entirely. Now, while the closures are meant to protect students, they raise a much deeper question, which is what happens when learning is paused indefinitely?
And beyond safety, there's also the reality that millions of children are now at home with no structured learning plan. So, are there alternative education systems prepared? And do we have the infrastructure for remote learning? And another one is, how long can Nigeria afford these disruptions before the long-term consequences begin to show? And so to help us unpack these challenges and understand what lies ahead for the education sector, we're joined by an education consultant, Ijoma Nwakwe Okoronkwo. Ijoma, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Much ado about the closure. Everyone has said it's important that the schools are closed so the children are safe. But we're not hearing from the policymakers about, the curricula or what it means, the impact for the children. So from an education standpoint, you being a consultant in education, what is the most immediate impact of prolonged school closures we're going to see on the children, on the students?
I'd like to thank you for even having me. But first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to all the men and women in the forefront of this. And I'd like to say that our prayers are with them, and we want to thank them immensely for trying to protect us all. About the first question was about the, could you run that by me again?
Yeah, the question is about, the impact it would have on the children, this closure, because it's indefinite. We don't know when the schools are going to be resumed for now. Yeah. So a prolonged school closure on the students, what will the immediate impact from an education standpoint be like or look like?
The immediate impact will be in their education. There will be gaps because the closure is indefinite. I was listening to the Honorable Commissioner in Plateau State, and she gave like basically a timeline, a tentative timeline that there were 3 weeks to the end of term and they'll be opening in the middle of January. Even at that, revision period is part of schooling. And we don't know how long schools are going to be closed. So there will definitely be gaps in the education. And the problem now is, or the challenge is, how are we going to fill in those gaps? How are we going to close those gaps? So we're looking at gaps in their education. That's what we're looking at.
You talked about gaps. I'd like to know how severe is, the learning loss when children have to, stay out of school for weeks or months due to insecurity.
The problem about that is that the teachers will be under pressure. Certain central exams will have to be altered. So the Ministry of Education or the people in charge of the stakeholders in education will have a lot of work to do, more work than required, to make sure that things are done in a system. Now, education is global. How are we going to make sure that we're at par with other people around the world? So with those gaps, it brings a lot of work, a lot of pressure on the children, a lot of pressure on the parents, and it's a little bit of chaos going on there from my experience when children have gaps. I mean, sometimes we have parents that take their children out for holiday or medical issues. We still have to cover those gaps. So the onus will now lie on the children, on the teachers, to make sure that those gaps are closed. And that's a lot of pressure. And when they don't pass, we blame the schools, we blame the teachers. Nobody remembers that the government had to do something and the schools were closed.
Right. Earlier I was asking the Honorable Commissioner for Education, for Jos, about, alternative learning systems. But the closures we've seen are also in areas that are far remote or far-flung or somewhat ungoverned, And so one has to ask about structured alternative learning systems, whether remote or community-based, that can support students, during school shutdowns, and giving the peculiar cases with these children, right? We know that it's up north, so there has to be mother tongue going on in there. There's also issues, cultural values as well. So how would that alternative look like, Ijoma?
The alternative for schooling remotely lies on a lot of things. It lies on power. It lies on expertise. It lies on availability of appliances. And we're looking at this insecurity in certain volatile areas where there has been a lot of insecurity. I don't know whether the government has put in fully. Yes, they are talking about remote classes, remote learning, but we have the internet to deal with. And with the internet, we have power issues. So yes, in private schools, it might work. But what about these unity schools? Are the children just going to sit at home, or are they going to give them a pile of homework to do and then return when the school finally opens? If you're going to do TV programs that are educational for the children, how many people have access to television? How many people have access to power? So there's so much that all the stakeholders in the education sector need to sit down and need to look at. And I think private schools that are thriving with remote learning should step in here. They need to step in and partner with the government, partner with public schools, so that the education of these children, the gap will not be as wide as it is. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot to do remote learning.
I hear you on that, Ijoma, when you say it's a whole lot to actually go about the whole remote learning. But we know for a fact that, a lot of parents can't even, aside from the power issue, which of course the government should handle, a lot of parents cannot afford some digital devices or even internet access. So what should we do? Because if you say you look at the private schools, they look like they have it better, but we have more government schools than private schools. So the question I'm asking is, in the Nigerian context, how can remote learning be inclusive?
The thing about it is that it boils down to security. We can't actually have our children out of school. We can't have that. Security must be put in place, and measures should be made for people who do this, who abduct children. What penalties are there for people that have abducted all these children? We're not supposed to be negotiating with people that take away our children. There's supposed to be something in place to show them that, look, our government is serious about this. Our government is not going to tolerate this, so that our children stay in school and they are secure. Because all we're working on is speculation now. By the time you think about how many children have disappeared, it's like 1,000 children. 1,000 Nigerian children of our future are nowhere to be found. Security is the utmost, that is the only thing that can solve this problem. The children must be secure in their schools. Many people send their children to boarding houses because they know that they'll be secure. Now you're thinking of leaving your child as a day student, but there are certain rudiments of education and learning and maturity that takes place in these schools, especially when they created unity schools. You are all products of unity schools. You know what you have benefited from there. So the onus lies on the government to secure our children wherever they school.
Now, beyond academics, right, one has to also look at, the children, because a lot of people are thinking about this from an education point of view. There's also the social part of it where, there's extracurricular classes, there's activities that is going on in the school. There's also where they're learning, socially. But there's also the emotional toll that goes with it as well. These gaps can affect them emotionally. So let's look at it, both from the emotional part as well as the social arm. Beyond academics, this prolonged time out of school, what will the effect be like on the students emotionally and socially?
When you leave children idle, they get up to no good. And having them out of school and at home, there's so much pressure on parents. They need to go to work. What are these children going to be up to? Schools provide you that extracurricular activity where your energy will be generated. Now, these children are back home. They are in the way, basically. I mean, in inverted commas, I'm saying that. There has to be a structure placed at home. Parents are under a lot of pressure. For example, even if you're doing judo classes for your children, let's say, or some home economics thing that they do in school for extracurricular activities, how is it possible for you as a parent, you're going to work, you're coming back, you're doing all that? The thing about it is that children's concentration span now, especially the younger children now, is very low. So you have children getting into all sorts because they're redundant. They're not doing anything. In school, they have a structure. Now, if you are a religious person, you can put them, I think maybe churches or mosques should form clubs where the children can go to and do something while they're at home. Or you as a parent have to make the extra effort to give them that social balance. If not, they'll get up to no good. And now that everything is so internet oriented for those that can afford it, the parents need to really check what these children are looking at as well. So now everybody's going to be on their toes. Children will be on their toes. Parents will be on their toes. Churches, mosques will be on their toes. And the school teachers are waiting for these children to come back to fill in the gaps. So it's a bit of chaos going on right now.
Now, we're hopeful, honestly. I think that's what we have to do right now when it comes to looking at what the government can do for us. Because you said it earlier that right now, with the way things are going, the government has to fix, the insecurity issues in our schools. Because right now, we really can't afford, remote learning just like that yet. But then again, I'd like to know, hopefully, if things come back to what it should be and the schools resume, what interventions would you recommend to support children once schools eventually open?
Like we teachers always do, once you come back and there's a gap, maybe a child went for medical treatment or hasn't been in school for a certain period of time, booster classes. There need to be booster classes. Booster classes, extra lessons after school. They must be infused into the curriculum. Certain things that can be dropped should be dropped and academics should be faced. So booster classes is just the answer when children come back to school, and make sure that the teachers cover those gaps. The onus always lies on the teacher. I salute all the teachers out there, plus me, and you need to just do those booster classes to cover the gaps. And the children too, they need to cooperate with us. They really need to cooperate with us. They need to cooperate with their parents, and they need to cooperate with their teachers and the school administration, so that when they come back to school, they hit the ground running. There'll be no time for laziness, no time for fuffing around or anything, so that we actually get this thing going.
I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us, Ijoma. Thank you for your insights and for coming on to the program this morning. Ijoma is an education consultant, giving us a bit of insight as schools government and unity schools are closing across the north due to insecurity. We talked about the prolonged gaps and what it would mean for the academic year, emotionally, socially, and what alternatives will look like at this time. Ijoma, once again, thank you. We go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we continue with our second hour, 9 o'clock, right here. Don't go anywhere, stay with us. The second hour here for Breakfast Extra. We continue our big story, this time on major security discussions. And now, as Nigeria continues to grapple with rising kidnappings, violent attacks, and widespread fear in several communities, just this week we have seen yet another wave of abductions, many ending with families forced to pay huge ransoms despite the government's repeated insistence that it does not negotiate with kidnappers.
These incidents are happening as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declares a national emergency on insecurity and backs the call for state policing, a move many say is long overdue. Beyond declarations, what real changes can Nigerians expect? Why do ransom payments continue? Is this advertently empowering criminal networks? And what practical steps are needed to finally break the cycle of kidnapping, banditry, and insurgency? Now, this will be a comprehensive discussion from the government's new security direction to the persistent failure to protect citizens and solutions that could truly restore safety across the country. To discuss this pressing issue and explore potential solutions, we are joined by Yahuza Getso, a security intelligence and investigation expert.
Mr. Yahuza, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Good morning once again.
Right.
So talk to us. Why do you think kidnappings have surged again? You know, despite multiple security interventions, what are the key weaknesses in the current security architecture in Nigeria?
Well, there are a lot of reasons that are complex in nature, complex in perception, complex in managing, and complex in handling, among which the major reason why we are having resurgence of this insurgency, especially the issues of kidnappings, can be looked into a several perspectives. One, the negligence from the government, from the security agencies, from the larger population, the citizens of Nigeria, and also from the philanthropists, among which can be classified as the traditional, religious, and the business owners. Politicians are playing a great role in the case of promoting resurgence, as well as the judiciary, the anti-graft agencies, that is the EFCC, the ICPC, and the rest of them. The condition of our judicial system and the inability to manage to have justifiable elections at the local governments, lack of justice in selection of candidates right from the councillorship, even the leadership of the party at the polling units, the porous border, the inability to hold people accountable for the authority and responsibilities being given to them among the security agents, the security managers, the security heads, as well as even the local government authorities and the members of our legislature, right from the local government council legislature, as well as the state legislature and the National Assembly and the Senate themselves. The executive have not been doing what they're supposed to do. We are not saying that all these are not doing anything. But what they are doing is not enough. Even if they are doing, what they are doing is not enough, and have not, because it have not proven the seriousness, the commitment, the sincerity, the honesty, in purpose, in delivering what is expected as enshrined in the Constitution, protecting lives and property as a primary responsibility of the government. Yes, of course, the declaration of state of emergency in respect to security and the push for state police. The push for state police, I think, is just a joke, because it's just like a Kannywood film. Because we are not sincere, we are not honest. I don't see us going there. And if Nigeria tries, for any reason, to have a state police under the present condition of what Nigeria is and what Nigerians are, and under the irresponsible political leaders that we have, by practice, by operations, by managing, by administering, by use of impunity, by negligence, by their weaknesses, by their personality weaknesses and the background failures, definitely Nigeria and Nigerians are going to regret it.
Mr. Gatsu, let's just settle a bit on the emergency on insecurity, state of emergency on insecurity that Tinubu, the president, has now declared. Let's settle on that first before coming to local policing. What would this declaration mean in practical terms for citizens? But most importantly, is this emergency declaration going to mean more concerted efforts? Is there a possibility of more hands? What would it look like?
Well, first of all I call on all and sundry in Nigeria to commend and salute President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, being the Chief Security Officer of the nation, for even making the statements, for him having the courage, for him having the confidence, for him believing that we need to have something like that, even in a statement, even making the statement, it carried a big weight. And he deserves to be commended. And I salute his position. I salute him for making the statement and making the declaration. What it means is that Nigeria is still a sovereign state, and Nigeria have a responsible leader, a humble, and someone who have the pain of killings, someone who have the pain and concern on the issues related to life and death, somebody who have the concern of the future of the Nigerian territory as an environment, someone who believes that Nigeria deserves to change, someone who believes that all hands must be on deck for us to deliver. Making the statement, the declaration of state of emergency by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu means many things. 1, operational. 2, social. 3, psychological. 4, general refurbishing, turning around upside down the security architecture. 4, purchase and procurement of necessary required facilities, equipment, and gadgets needed for that to happen as an emergency situation. And 5, it is a statement that means the government is has woken up from its slumber, that he is ready to provide all the necessary support required for the Nigeria to be safe and for secured and safe Nigeria. 6, is sending a message that government is no longer going to tolerate the nonsense, the negligence, the sabotage, the weakness in policy, the complicit, the compromises, the corrupt practices, and an inability to have a legislation and direction on fighting the insurgency, especially the banditry and kidnapping and all other forms of the security challenges we have in the nation. And number 7, it means that all the security formations are expected to go back and look in what do they have. Conduct a SWOT analysis to understand their strength, to understand their opportunities, to understand the threat within their system, to also understand the opportunities and also present to the government the need assessment. It means sending the message to those who are committing the atrocities. The declaration means surrender your arms and accept the peace deal, or rather the government is not going to take it lightly on you. It is saying the end is coming of abducting the children in schools. The declaration also is an explanation that governments want to have a peaceful roads, a motorable roads, and also maintain and sustain the national unity and national cohesion, progress and development. It means government is going to reposition itself to be more focused on how to fix issues in Nigeria. Making the declaration also is a message, is a testimony that Nigeria has opened its doors for all the foreign countries, the international powers, and other neighbors to support and assist Nigeria in dealing and managing and addressing the security challenges bedeviling the nation.
All right.
It is a clear testimony that all those are the policy position, the governors, the councillors, the local government chairman, the Senate, the National Assembly and the state assemblies, as well as the local government area councils, and the councillors, the traditional and religious leaders, have been given an open hand. The ordinary person moving on the streets, everybody is expected, the president have given a clear testimony that my door is open and I want to work with Nigerians towards addressing whatever challenges that we have.
All right.
Those in the academia, including the opposition parties.
All right. Just a second, Mr.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for taking.
Right, Mr. Gatsu, just a second. We're being informed that another of our guests is joining us now, and it would be hang on.
We're being joined now by Sheyi Adetayo, who is a security expert. Mr. Sheyi, Mr. Adetayo, rather, if you can hear us clearly, thank you so much for joining and having this conversation with us. But I'd like to know what you think about the president declaring a state of emergency in our security, architecture right now in Nigeria. Do you think this is what we need at the moment?
I think it is. Good morning, and glad to be here. I think it is long overdue, and I want to appreciate the last speaker for the effort at trying to enumerate all the benefits or the major highlights around the declaration. But most importantly, this is something that someone like me have been calling for a long time. If you remember, last time I was on your station, I think during the Lakrawa incident, and I made it clear that we're in a state of war. You also brought a general, a retired general, that was talking about non-kinetic and the rest. And we are high challenge. Yeah, I'm DSS retired. I'm not a soldier, but I'm trained to be able to appraise situations and then be able to forecast. And that is what, we've seen in some of the people that have held leadership in terms of our armed forces, not being able to appraise the situation and handle it with kid glove. We should be able to understand when we're in a state of war and then when we are having a situation that we can manage. This is long overdue. And I know that the president must have surmounted lots of political pressures and the rest, to come to this point, because there are those who do not want, the president to act in this manner and to take the bulls by the horns, because they know at the end of the day, the fallout is going to affect them one way or the other. But as a nation, we must survive, and we need to do what we have to do, and we have to do it at the right time.
Right.
To look at all I
wanted to just quickly ask, I think it's important to ask this question. Although we've seen a reshuffle with the service chiefs within the military, but one still has to state here whether this state of emergency in some ways can be linked to the present military structure, or the policing itself, or police?
Okay, if I don't think I really understand your question, but let me just respond in this manner. The president didn't just come out to say, "Oh, I'm declaring." He held a meeting. He had meetings with the service chiefs, and before that, he had a meeting with the Director General of the Department of State Service, who had appraised him of the situation and given him credible intelligence as to the reality on ground. We've seen a lot of narratives around, most times wrong notions, wrong informations that have, not really helped us. But the most important thing is that for us to be able to get it right, we need to respect intelligence coming from our own apex intelligence service, which is some of the problems we've had with some service chiefs who want to prove supremacy. What supremacy are you going to prove when you're operating within your country? You're dealing with local population. You don't have the intelligence to handle the local population. The organization that is responsible, when they give you information, work with it. DSS have been on ground for years. They have the asset, they have the structure. And I think we are trying to get it right now with the leadership that Mr. President is providing now. Operating based now on intelligence from his apex intelligence service to coordinate security generally. You see, the Kirby happened not because there was dearth of intelligence. Intelligence was provided. In all these attacks, TSS have provided intelligence. So the question is, why do we still have this attack when DSS have always been providing intelligence that this thing will happen? It means that, yes, you might have preponderance of information, from here, left and right, but I don't think that America will ever, the continent, intelligence coming from its apex intelligence service, before they, why they want to, carry out any operation. So I see this as a watershed in us addressing the situation at hand at this moment. And I look forward to us beginning to see, it's not just declaring. If you look at the content of the declaration, the Director General of the DSS have been mandated to deploy the forest guard. That is something. Even though they've not said much about it, for anyone who understands what the president has done, that means that you will understand what we should be able to start getting out. And not only that, the armed forces, the police, they've been asked to now recruit more. If you remember, my previous presentations on this station, I have highlighted all those things. Some time past I said that the current armed forces strength we have cannot take care. We are not dealing with a standing army.
I seem to have lost Mr. Adetayo there. Shea Adetayo is a security expert. The boss will try to re-establish connection with him.
Enough manpower that will divide the forest into quadrants, begin to clear the forest, each quadrant by quadrant, and as you are clearing it, you are putting men on ground to secure the areas that you have cleared, or you are able to push them. You can't do that with this current armed strength that we have. And I think we're beginning to understand what we need to get done.
Mr. Adetayo, I do have to ask, is it strength? Is it about numbers, or is it about expertise and training, right? Because like you rightfully said, the threat and the terror at our doorstep has evolved, and they are now fortified with the arms that they carry, sophisticated arms, the monies that they get from kidnappings and the rape.
I missed the beginning of your statement.
I will. I'm getting there. I was asking that, is this about numbers or about training? Because you're saying that the army, their workforce or the numbers of troops are dwindled over the years and they need more hands. So is it about numbers or about training? Because we know that the terrorists or the bandits or the threat that is imminent at our doorfront have been fortified over the years, and they have evolved as well with the times. And so are we just recruiting people to join the military, or are we going to be training them? One has to look at that. But also you talked about intelligence. Are we factoring into this intelligence the patterns that we're seeing with these attacks and targets that are happening, whether it's kidnappers, school, abductions, and highways in certain communities? Your take.
So, number one, training is important. Numbers is important. Number is important, but let me say this clearly. we have one of the best armed forces in the world. That operationally, that I can give you. The problem might be leadership of the armed forces per time, but we have the best. And I said something on another station that for sophistication of weapon, U.S. armed forces cannot.
Mr. Deta, are you still there? All right. I'm hoping Mr. Getso is still there with us.
Yes,
Mr. Getso, earlier you said state policing in Nigeria, you termed it a joke. Would you want to give us reasons for making such a statement?
Yeah, just before I give the reasons for that, I think just to add up to what my brother has been emphasizing, who are we recruiting? How are we going to recruit? What is the number? The total number of the forest guards that we have is not up to 2,000. Those 2,000, to the best of my knowledge, as a community hard to reach and a difficult terrain expert, I believe that they cannot even cover 2 local government or 3 local government. If you can transfer all of them, including the management of the forest guard, how many are they? The issue of DSS to send the forest guard to the forest, to man our forests, it's not about having the declaration. Even though we are not hasteful and we are not discouraging, Mr. President, but there are a lot of things to do. And another thing I want to make very clear is that 99.9% of those who are committing atrocities in North Central, Northwest, and Northeastern part of the country, they are known. They are not unknown. And 99.9% of them are Nigerians. There are 4 categories we need to understand. There are armed importers, there are armed traders, there are armed movers, there are armed transporters. Yes, of course, the armed traders and armed importers may likely be around 65% or thereby foreigners. But the armed transporters and armed movers and those who are utilizing the arms, 99.9% of them are Nigerians. And they live within us. And they live within our polling unit, within our political world, within our local governments. We know them, we know their parents, we know their foreparents, and they are not living in any thick or difficult terrain where our personnel doesn't have the capacity to reach and deal with them. It's just to have the sincerity and purpose. We must start holding people accountable for the responsibility being given to them. We have the capacity, we have the armament, we have the personnel. I cannot say that the level of capacity and armament and personnel that we have, we cannot be able to curtail the situation on ground. Now, talking on the state of police, there are several reasons. Even the federal police that we have now, the level at which the governors are doing a kind of power play, using them as for impunity against the opposition. We even had one of the contenders, one of the presidential candidates in the year 2023, he made declaration yesterday that they are going to give authority to the polling units and the other members of his party. So they are no longer going to consider any security architecture or any security personnel, but rather they are going to use what they have as a strategy. They will ask people to take law into their hands. A presidential candidate making this statement. And there are a lot of statements being credited to many of our politicians. The police authorities, the police intelligence could have arrested them immediately and deal with them squarely. So the governors you have don't have any iota of respect to police authorities, even the federal police.
All right.
And those so-called community guard or whatever they initiated in their respective states, they are using them against their opponents. They are not really using them for the objective, for the purpose, with the sincerity, for the purpose of delivering results, for the purpose of securing the nation. So if you allow state police to happen in Nigeria, under present irresponsible politicians that we have, many of the irresponsible leaders,
all right,
the unscrupulous element that we have,
okay.
I want to tell you, Nigeria is going to have a more failure, and it is going to be more dangerous to Nigeria's security than otherwise.
All right. Very quickly.
We need to go back and fix the present federal police that we have. The number is not adequate. And we need to reorient them and conduct a background check. In the last 35 years, or more than that, we have been recruiting, our recruitment process, our training process, our promotion process, our posting process. We have been recruiting, promoting, and a kind of in serious mess.
All right.
So we need to fix that. We are not serious. We don't have sincerity in purpose. So declaring the state of emergency is different. Operationalizing the state of emergency is different. I'm not discouraging Mr. President. I'm encouraging him and I commend him for this initiative.
All right. Mr. Gatsu, just a second. We would like to bring in our second or third guest who is just joining us now. Chidi Umeje, he is a security analyst. Chidi, thanks so much for joining us. We talked about the emergency declaration by the president on insecurity, or rather on insecurity. We've also talked about state policing as well, and we've looked at the workforce of the military and whether or not it is about numbers or about training to tackle insecurity. But one issue that we have not touched on is the kidnappings and the ransom negotiations indirectly, and critics saying that it indirectly funds banditry. How do you think the federal government should be responding to this? Do ransom payments fuel and strengthen criminal groups?
Thank you for having me. I've been battling in network all morning trying to join you guys. But
yes,
I think I'm here now. Are you hearing me at all?
Loud and clear.
Very well then. Okay, so good morning everybody and my colleagues in the panel. I appreciate you guys. Well, I think your question has to do with if the idea of paying ransoms to kidnappers will be sustainable, or what exactly is the question? Can you refresh me?
No, I was asking about, critics have argued that ransom negotiations and payments of ransoms to banditry, in some sense, critics say that the ransom negotiations indirectly funds banditry. And the federal government has said, when we look at the release of the Mina girls or the Maga girls and the rest, they've not been so clear as to how this happened, as well as in Bernie Kirby as well. So the question is, do ransom payments actually fuel and empower strengthened criminal bandits? Do they fund the banditry?
Most definitely, of course, you know that. Where do you think they are getting the funds from? Where do you think they're getting funds to fortify themselves? Look, every time we pay ransom, you have empowered even more terrorists, more bandits into their business. Each time these guys receive funds, of course, a bigger chunk of it goes into procuring even more formidable weaponry. So it has never been an option. That's why most serious countries don't see negotiation with bandits or ransom paying as an option. But in our own case, Nigerians have been left to their own devices. Government seems to be totally overwhelmed by the situation. And that, of course, if you have a family member in the hands of these guys and you have the option of paying, even to sell your land to pay, you have to pay because you want your family member out of their captivity. So it's out of desperation that we are doing this thing. But I do not think this sustainability of this approach. Otherwise, we won't have a country to live in. I just came in from the east the other day, and I tell you something, the whole stretch of Kogi State are now completely infested by these guys. I remember, being stopped by the military guys on patrol, and they told us, look, that along that stretch, that every now and then you see these guys coming out to cut Nigerians into the forest. If you have idea how many Nigerians in the captivity in hands of these demons, you will weep. So things are happening. I was listening to you guys, even though I was unable to join, but we talked about this state of emergency that had been declared by the president. Well, like my brother there, the guy on cap, I don't know his name, like he said, one thing is to declare this thing. One thing is to make a policy statement. The other thing is to implement it and operationalize it. I don't know, but Mr. President, but in fact, the one thing that this situation have given us, have told us Nigerians, have made it very clear to Nigerians is that security is actually the fulcrum of any society. If your security collapses, everything collapses. Education, transportation, everything goes under. So if we don't fix it right, we can't progress. So security is everything. So this emergency declaration, just a way of telling Nigerians that, look, we recognize the fact that we can't thrive in an atmosphere of insecurity. We cannot do anything. Even our budget system cannot work. Even our governance, things cannot work because security is down. Nothing happens. People can't go to school. Our daughters are being carted away in KB. Our school children are taken away from Catholic school in Niger, Niger State, and our roads, our federal roads are danger.
Mr. Major, apologies, but I just have to butt in at this point in time. That's because we need to take a pause on this conversation. We'll definitely continue right after this break. Stay with us.
And you're welcome back. We've been talking insecurity in Nigeria as Tinubu has declared a state of emergency on security as well as local policing. We've been discussing local policing ransom and also what a concerted effort would look like to tackle insecurity across the country. With us, we have Yahuza Gatsu, who's a security analyst, joining us all the way from up north here in Lagos. We also have Chidi Umeje and not to forget Sheyi Adetayo, all security analysts, and giving us in-depth insights when it comes to security architecture of Nigeria. Now, Mr. Chidi, I'm going to allow you with your closing remarks, and then we're going to ask final questions as we wrap up this discussion. Chidi, you have the floor.
I was just trying to, establish the fact that, for us as Nigerians, security is just the issue now, and Mr. President have understood this fact. A reason why he had to declare the emergency. So we must support him. We must find a way to work. We speak in one voice as a country because we have a country to retrieve from the hands of these bandits and terrorists that are ravaging our lives. But like Yahuza said, one thing is to declare sweet policies like this. The other thing is to implement them. Now, how are we going to implement this? I think it boils down to political will. Political will is the issue, and in our context, political will means the ability of the leadership to tackle the entrenched interests. Entrenched interests here means those power, how do you call it in this country? The ones who call themselves the owners of Nigeria, and they can be found in politics, in military, in business life, in religious circles. They're everywhere. But these are ideologues. These are big people. So will the president be able to muster that testicular fortitude to implement this, important policy? The policy I mean here is the emergency, because it's a government policy, and we all hands must be on deck. For instance, he talked about the issue of getting the VIP police VIP protection unit out from there to give it to civil defense. Will he be able to implement? Will he have the political will to carry out that particular, vexatious policy? Because most times, in fact, every other administration that I've seen, I've always tried to. You say every IGP that comes in will say, "I'm going to withdraw VIP," but they never get to do that. So I'm hoping that Mr. President will exercise that much needed political will to see through to that particular order. Then another thing is talked about employing, to increase our boots on ground. Very important. But important thing again is if you recruit more and you are not able to reduce the theaters of operations. For instance, we have the Southeast. Don't you think that the best the government could do is to make sure that you close that theater of operation? The theater of operation in the Southeast. Anywhere you can use political solution to deal with. You do it so that you release troops there to join forces elsewhere. That's why we're saying sometimes there are times you use political solution to deal with some of these issues. So I believe that the issues in the Southeast can be dealt with so that we can free the troops there to join in somewhere else where we have issues, because the tension in the Southeast is tied down to the issues that everybody know about. So for me, the whole thing is all about the political will to deal with the situation. And I trust that the much acclaimed Jagaban of Nigerian politics will deploy those, qualities, the political sagacity, and all those, he has the capacity of winning elections. Let us see if we can deploy that capacity into winning this war against insecurity.
Let me come to you, Mr. Adetayo. I'd like to ask, how intelligence gathering can be used as a tool to prevent attacks. And where are we right now when it comes to intelligence gathering in Nigeria?
Fairly well. And I can say that with all sense of responsibility. The fact that we experience a surge doesn't mean there is increase in capability of the insurgent or bandits. It's because of network. I couldn't explain that when I was talking about the need for us to have more boots there. Now, our military have killed more bandits that you can ever imagine. But the problem here is that the recruitment capacity or mechanism of the bandit is very, very strong. The more they kill, the more they recruit, and that's why it seems as if they are not doing much. And those indices that enable, easy recruitment, they are all still there. And in terms of intelligence, it was intelligence-backed up operations that actually pushed the bandit off where they were. After several air bombardment by the Nigerian Air Force, leading to them having to come down, to the fringes of the forest to start picking people to use them as a human shield and cannon fodder. And that is why we saw those up.
Adetayo, are you still there? It looks like we lost connection with him. Let me ask the question now to Mr. Yahuza Getso. Mr. Getso, are you still there?
Yes, absolutely, I'm there.
Yes, I was asking Mr. Adetayo how intelligence gathering can be a tool to prevent attacks.
Well, having the intelligence in Nigeria is different. Utilizing the intelligence is different. I commend the intelligence of Nigeria for being able to expose probably a coup that was about to take place. But if at all you have those skills, and also the skills of intelligence that was used in order to get the children of secondary school in Kebbi, Dimaga, and that one of the Catholic in Niger, and the rest of it. And if we really have those intelligence, if we really have those skills and those capacities, why can't we use the same in order to bring an end of this menace entirely? Intelligence is very, very important, because it is only when you have the intelligence that you will be able to prevent the occurrence of the criminality. We have enough intelligence. The communities in northern Nigeria, especially in the northwestern part of the country, northeastern part of the country, and north central part of the country, the community, the members of the community are really very proactive in providing those intelligence. And I want to tell you, like I said always, and I'm repeating myself, these criminals are not coming from the ground, and they're not coming from the sky. They are known. We know them, we know who they are, we know where they are, we know their parents, so we have all it takes. And we must use the available intelligence in order to break through into their supply chain mechanism, so that we can be able to handle and manage them accordingly. But it is because our intelligence has become so forced, or rather, the relevant intelligence agencies are just competing among themselves towards making the president to know their availability and know that they are doing A, B, C, D. But the reality is, if at all we are utilizing the available intelligence we are gathering, we wouldn't have gotten ourselves to where we are, or to the situation that a president must have to declare the state of emergency. Nigeria have the capacity, have the ability, have the intelligence quality, have the intelligent personnel that can be able to provide and organize and mobilize whatever it takes for us to have the intelligence that we could have prevented these guys from committing the atrocities and committing the offenses. So intelligence is very, very essential. It's very, very necessary in kind of dealing or managing or addressing any security challenge, bedeviling the nation or whatever situation it may be. Our personnel are doing their best, but their best has not been enough, simply because we have not been holding people accountable and responsible for the authorities and responsibility being conferred on them. And we will continue to be in this mess as far as our judiciary remain in mess as it is, as far as our legislature remain in mess as it is, as far as corruption remain there, as far as we cannot deal with complicit, as far as we cannot deal with those who are compromising openly, directly and indirectly, as far as we cannot hold people who are sabotaging the state effort, as far as we cannot confront those on who took over some of the spaces and they become the leaders. As far as I'm concerned, now what we have in Nigeria is we have the federal government, we have the state government, we have the local government, and we also have the criminal combined authority. Because these criminals, because of our weakness in terms of generating and utilizing the intelligence, they are now partnering with one another. There is a very close partnership between the Boko Haram and the bandits. There is very close partnership between the ISWAP and the bandits. There is very close partnership and collaboration between the Lakurawa, the Mahmuda, and the rest of them.
Okay.
So inclusive of the IPOC, because that's the way forward for them to mobilize the resources. They are all partaking in one another's business.
Okay.
So we must be serious. We must have sincerity in purpose if we really want to deliver.
All right.
And we said we are recruiting. Who are we recruiting? We must conduct a background check on those who are recruiting, and we must also go back, dive into the personnel that we have in the military, in the paramilitary, and conduct.
Okay, I mean, we do have to end this discussion here. I must say thank you to everyone, starting with you, Mr. Gatsu, as well as yourself, Mr. Chidu Omeje. Unfortunately, you had to join in late. And also to Shea Detayo. The network has been a bit poor on both your ends, but still managing to join us is much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been our discussion on insecurity, as the president has now declared state of emergency on security. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, we've got wellness. Stay with us, don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Still Breakfast Extra. Now, we hit the streets of Lagos to hear directly from Nigerians about an issue that affects us all, national security. Now, rising security concerns have left many feeling uneasy, from kidnappings and armed attacks to general safety in our communities. We went out to find out what people think, how they're coping, and what they believe needs to be done.
Now, the reactions were as varied as they were passionate. Citizens shared their experiences, their fears, and also their hopes for a safer Nigeria. Here's what Nigerians had to say on the state of the nation and the urgent need to address our security challenges. Take a look.
The federal government is not sincere with Nigerians. There are a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of manipulations, a lot of lack of political will to punish those that are involved. So Nigerians believe that the federal government has a hand. Like the recent Chibok, the girls from Kebbi State. How can it be that they released this and they didn't tell us? And they thought that Nigerians are fools, right? And I was on air the other place, and the Inspector General of Police said that why they did not arrest them was because they voluntarily released them. And that is nonsense. That's from the pit of hell. So Nigerians are tempted to believe that they are encouraging them, they are empowering them. They may not say it, but then whether they pay ransom for these children to be released or not, most important thing is that those girls were released and we're happy about it.
I can never accept the government should be paying the bandits for ransom. So because it doesn't make any sense. So we've already recognized these people, they are terrorists. So they are criminal. So why should you need for government to be paying the ransom to them? We are seeing that the governor have the government officials attending the wedding ceremony of the bandits. As how? So government should just waste them once and for all. Equip our military men, security men, the necessary equipment they need to finish them.
To me, I don't think it's good for government to be paying ransom to them because they are destroying our country. So why would government be paying ransom to them? I don't think so. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. How did they start? How do we start having those people around us? Before, when I was the little in this country, there's nothing like that. We can walk freely. But now they are everywhere and they are destroying the farmers. They are not making things to be convenient for everybody to purchase. Things are too expensive because of them. So many families are crying. They have lost their family. They have lost their loved ones. Where are they going to find them? Who is going to come to their rescue? Is it until when we wait for them to destroy Nigeria? If our government can invite the other government to fight this at once for us, I'll be happy. Because I don't want to run to any country. I don't want to wait until they come and kidnap my children or my husband and start asking for ransom.
I will not say the federal government is behind this banditry. The government in itself is very complex. There may be enemy within. Because no enemy can come from outside without the insider.
Yes, I would say federal government is involved because there is no country, any country, especially like Nigeria, and you said that we are fighting Boko Haram, we are fighting banditry and all that, and they are not doing anything. They are killing our soldiers, they are not doing anything. And you said that, you know, and we said that government are not involved. It's just we are deceiving ourselves. To get in banditry, all these bandits, to round them up, it's just a day if government determines to do it. But whereby government are not determined to do it, you can see that we can't do anything. It shows that they are involved, their hands are involved. What we need to do is to fight them, get everybody that are involved, anybody that is in the government that are involved, let them make that decision. No matter who is involved, step on those toes so that we will move forward.
The Planned Parenthood Federation of Nigeria, that's the PPFN, has called for the full implementation of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015. The executive director of the federation, Dr. Okai Aku, during activities marking the commencement of its 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, GBV, expressed worry over continuous cases of violence meted out to women, calling on victims to speak out so that they can get justice. And on to religion, as a delegation of the Charismatic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria has passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu following widespread reforms, the performance of the nation's economy, and efforts geared towards fighting insecurity. Now, this was as the delegation, led by its president, Archbishop Leonard Kawas, met with Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, in Abuja. Now, the SGF also commended the delegation for their support, saying that despite the challenges inherited by the current administration, much has been achieved in ensuring stability in the country. And away from Nigeria to Guinea-Bissau for the coup, as the new military leader of Guinea-Bissau has appointed an ally of the House president as prime minister on Friday, as international criticism grew of this week's coup. The military took total control of the West African country on Wednesday, a day before the provisional results of national elections were due to be announced, and President Ouattara Sissoco Embalo took refuge in neighboring Senegal. On Friday, the country's new military leader named his prime minister, Ilido Virate, the finance minister in Embalo's government.
No consigo como trabalhador. Mas para no vai continuar. Mesmo barco como a cole balwa. MBS se encaja bem na geo no dia de cambantal pa inchude. Povo na pera espera bom penho. Não é depois da tudo na confiança, na bom. Pabeleba no barco toku chiga tal chodo. Barco bisi chiga chodo mai ka put chiga. Est-ce que monsieur Falau? Comme esse discurso teu pinta. No problema é para fazer ação no terreno visível.
Away from Africa and now to the United States, as the country has ordered a comprehensive review of all green cards issued to nationals from 19 countries deemed of concern, sparing Nigeria. This comes amid President Trump's immigration crackdown following the fatal shooting of a National Guard member by Afghan suspect Ramallah Lakukwa. The list includes Afghanistan, Burma, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Turkmenistan, I beg your pardon. And that brings us to the end of this Breakfast Headlines. Make sure to join us at 12 noon for the full package. Breakfast Extra continues. I am Judith at TV. Stay with us.
Still watching Breakfast Extra. Our Wellness Central today is a special segment as we are commemorating World AIDS Day. Now, it's a moment to reflect on the progress made in the fight against HIV and to remember that the battle is far from over. The 2025 theme, Treatment Saves Lives, while prevention and care still matters, reminds us that while treatments are available and effective, staying safe and accessing care remains critical for everyone.
And to help us unpack this important topic, we're joined by Isaac Moses, who is a service delivery lead at Youthful, Alive and Healthy Nigeria. Isaac will guide us through the importance of prevention, testing and ongoing care, especially for young people, and share practical ways that we can all play a role in stopping the spread of HIV. Isaac, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to have me on the show.
Thank you. Now, Isaac, can you give us an overview of the current HIV situation in Nigeria? What are we looking at, especially among young people?
All right, so currently when we look at the HIV situation in Nigeria, you agree with me that based on the latest data that is available, that's the Nigerian HIV/AIDS Impact and Indicator Survey. That data reveals that our prevalence is at 1.3, and that means that about 1.9 million persons are living with HIV currently in Nigeria, and that's from the ages of 15 to 45. And when you look at that, young people have a larger proportion of this HIV burden in Nigeria. And then we're looking at some of the ongoing efforts that have been that have been happening in the current landscape of the HIV response. You have that for a while now, the country have adopted the treatment as prevention approach. That means that we are trying to achieve the 95 targets. And this means that 95% of persons living with HIV needs to know their HIV status. And then among these 95% that knows their HIV status, 95% of them have to be placed on antiretroviral treatment continuum of care. Then out of these 95% that are placed on treatment, we also want 95% of persons on HIV treatment to be virally suppressed. And so there is a scientific fact with evidence that shows that when persons living with HIV are virally suppressed, the chances of transmitting the virus to another person becomes very, very negligible. And that's the reason why the country had to adopt that scientific approach. So this means that HIV is no more a death sentence, it's no more a threat. And so far, we've seen that our treatment as prevention approach has really helped us as a country to have a very good epidemic control in the country. So when we look at that performance, considering the 95 cascade, we see that as a country, we are still doing about 87% for persons that know their status. And then for those that are on treatment, we are at about 98%. That means we have almost 1.6 million people. Among the about 1.9 million persons living with HIV, about 1.6 are already on antiretroviral treatment. And among these people that are on antiretroviral treatment, we are already doing well at about 95% viral suppression. And this means that not just at the individual level we are making progress, but as at the population level as well, because the rate of transmission of HIV is becoming minimal. However, we still see that there are still a little gap, especially in the areas of pediatrics and in the area of PMTCT. In the area of pediatric, we are still coming up strong with response to advanced HIV disease, as the AHD, which is something that the country is looking at directly right now. And also in the area of PMTCT, to ensure that no child that is born to an HIV-infected mother is having the HIV virus. And of course, the present Director General of NACA, currently Dr. Temitope Ilori, is taking that as a core priority, looking at PMTCT and looking at pediatric and also looking at adolescent HIV. That also covers the young population, adolescents and young people population. It's a priority right now for the country to ensure that the testing gap is well closed. And because, of course, we know that we just don't want to say treatment alone is enough. But however, prevention and testing, of course, we know testing is the entry point to treatment. And so we are prioritizing prevention and testing right now as a country, so that by the time we are looking at the cascade, the 95-95 cascade, we should be able to say that by 2030, which we are looking at this target as a country, we'll be doing well and even surpassing the 95 target from the first 95, just like we are doing in the second 95. We're already at 98. And then for viral suppression, we are already doing well at 95. We hope that by 2030, we should be able to surpass all the targets across the cascade. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Isaac, the theme this year is treatment saves lives. Tell me, how has access to antiretroviral therapy changed the lives of people living with HIV in Nigeria?
Oh, wow. Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, when you look at the theme, treatment saves life, of course, treatment saves life. I took us through the data and then also taking us through some of the scientific progress that we have made, looking at treatment as prevention. So when you look at about 1.6 million people that are already on treatment, that means we've been able to avert over thousands of deaths, including the suffering, the impact of AIDS. So there's a clear difference between HIV and AIDS. AIDS, it's the full-blown stage of a HIV infection, and you know what that means. It means that there is a lot of the person will be suffering a lot of opportunistic infection, and there's a lot of health burden, looking at the highly compromised immune system, which can then at that point lead to death. But through the treatment program, the treatment as prevention program, among the about 1.9 million persons living with HIV, about 1.6 million are already on treatment. That means that we've been able to save life. We've averted thousands of deaths and also the suffering. Now, when you also look at it in terms of pediatrics, advanced HIV disease, you see that children are very, very susceptible to HIV, especially when there is vertical transmission from mother to child, and the chances of survival at that stage, because they are still developing, might really be a serious challenge for them to cope. But with treatment, we see that we've been able to cut vertical transmission from mother to child. That means many children are now safe. They can live without the HIV infection, which they would have ordinarily contracted from their infected mother. Then again, when you also now look at it at the population level, you will agree with me that because we already have about 95% success rates in terms of viral suppression, that means the chances of person, it takes two to tangle. It's you can only get this HIV from someone that is infected. So that means a person that is negative can contract HIV from someone that is infected with HIV. Why someone that is infected with HIV can transmit the virus to a negative person. But with the treatment that we are looking at right now, we see that transmission, that is prevention with positives, transmission has actually reduced. It means that our new incidence rates have been greatly reduced. So the number of persons that would have been infected ordinarily without being virally suppressed on the treatment would have also increased, which would have also resulted in some higher HIV deaths, age-related deaths in the country. So, but with the treatment, I think we've been able to achieve very good epidemic control. We've been able to save large number of lives. We've avert many deaths and suffering in the country. And again, we have been able to reduce new incidents in the country. So this is a clear evidence and a clear indication that as a country, of course, we have been able to demonstrate that scientific evidence that yes, treatment thus saves lives.
Now, as we're talking about, the treatments and the effectiveness of treatments that are available, just beyond that, one has to look at the concerted efforts of the government first. We know that USAID was paused after a while due to this current administration in the U.S. And there were some talks about it affecting HIV and AIDS program that was funded by USAID. Do you want to talk a bit about that? You are working closely with this NGOs and persons who partner with this. Was there any effect or any gaps so far since the stop of USAID?
All right, thank you very, very much. Of course, for people that are actually following the response in Nigeria, we know that large volume of funds are from external intervention. So with the USAID cuts of fund or withdrawal of their funds assets, some recently, yes, we see that there was some level of what impact in that, because quite a number of projects that are life-saving projects were a bit affected. But you will observe that in that memo, essential service were still maintained. We know that it also disrupts some kind of prevention intervention in some areas. But as a country, we saw the Nigerian government under the His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration, and we saw the Nigerian government respond very speedily with the release of some billions worth in naira to really quickly mitigate that gap, so that supply of ART is not really a pressure or a problem in some of those states that were really USAID funded states. And a lot of organizations also came very, very speedily, in the sense that we have to start looking at some other innovative approach, looking at differentiated service delivery, that's the DSD approach, and some other innovations to ensure that people that are on this essential treatment are not highly affected. So we see drugs taken down to remote areas through dispatch and through last mile delivery approach, through peer navigation approach, and a lot of innovations came on board. And aside the government responding in terms of funding to bridge that gap, we saw a lot of civil society organization, network, and even the healthcare systems as well, to see that we strengthen that gap. And if you look at right now, there is a lot of effort to also integrate some of these services into the healthcare insurance program that is happening nationwide. So persons that are living with HIV are also captured in the healthcare insurance scheme that is being powered by the government to ensure that their burden and their priority needs are well captured and taken care of. So with some of this intervention, I think as a country, with the pain was not so felt. We've been able to bridge that gap, and of course, we are looking at that things will get better as we move on.
Now, Mr. Moses, with treatment being available, I'd like to know, why is prevention still, such a critical part of the fight against HIV?
Yes, thank you very much for that wonderful question. So when we look at prevention is still a key concern because of some certain factors that prevents the vulnerable population from accessing treatment. For example, despite the fact that we know that we are, as a country, we have moved away from just the awareness stage, we are now at the scientific stage. HIV stigma still persists in our community. Social stigma still persists. And of course, there are also punitive laws that affect the key affected populations due to certain high-risk behavior that they are involved in. So there's some kind of barrier, this punitive law that prevents them from accessing service, including young people as well. Like I said, social stigma affects a lot of young persons. You see a young person wants to walk into a facility to ask for condom or to even ask for PrEP, and it's being stigmatized, and it's being like, have you started having sex? Why do you want to take PrEP, or why are you asking for condoms and all of that? So these are serious issues that is affecting our prevention intervention. And of course, when you look at healthcare providers, the attitude of healthcare providers as well, it's also affecting some of these populations as well. So prevention, there is still some certain gaps in prevention, but like I mentioned earlier, as a country right now, there's a lot of focus to ensure that prevention is a priority. So we have for the Nigerian government responding to that, reviewing the HIV prevention policy, and also reviewing the policy and guideline for adolescents and young people prevention, which is looking at a lot of other innovative approach. Where do we find these young people? Where can we reach them? So both digital platforms and multi-sectoral approach are being actually deployed. And we're also looking at there is also the funding challenge as well, because prevention is a very, very capital intensive. When you look at the large number of population, it means that you are trying to prevent HIV. So you look at the number of people that are already infected compared to the number of people that are not infected, and you need to program for them. When you look at that number, you see that you spend so much in prevention with negative. But however, the government is looking at priority approach to reach most of the vulnerable populations that are highly affected. That is adolescents and young persons, key population, and of course women of reproductive age. We are very much sure, with also some kind of a mental health intervention being integrated, our prevention response will be coming up in the coming years.
Let's talk about efforts for underserved areas as we wind down. We're talking about the access to effective drugs, the antiretroviral drugs as well. But HIV care and treatment, especially in rural and underserved areas, what are we looking at in terms of accessibility and consistency with care and treatment?
Yes, so a lot of intervention are actually ongoing. For example, if we look at the entry project that is being powered by NACA, the entry projects funded by Global Fund in collaboration with the Nigerian government and coordinated by the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. And then we have quite a number of NGOs like IHVN, including the network of people living with HIV and AIDS in Nigeria. Just in the spirit of let community leads. So our response have actually been localized, because there is this tagline that we are pushing. While we are thinking globally, we also need to act locally. So think globally, but act what's locally. And that has helped us to localize our response, so that communities are actually at the front line. So we have the community of persons living with HIV, and also community of civil society at the grassroots level. And these interventions are happening at the grassroots level, the subnational level, at all the LGA. So you see that hard to reach communities are actually being targeted, because this is where we see that the interventions, these populations are really underserved, and those are the areas that are currently targeted for the entry project. For example, if you look at Kwara State, you see some of those LGAs up north that are really underserved: Barotin, Kayama, Edu local governments, Patigi, Ifelodun local government, irrespective of some of the security challenges that we are facing. If you move down to the southwest in Ogun State, in Lagos State, you see communities, the riverine communities being targeted down to Makoko, Badagry, Ekpe, Ikorodu area, the Jede community. Those are hard to reach area. When you go to up the east as well, you look at Anambra State, Ebonyi State, you see that these interventions are going deep down into the rural communities, where these interventions are highly in need. And of course, it is the locals, the community people that are actually leading this intervention at the grassroots level. With this, we are beginning to see an improved response. More cases, new cases, people that don't know their status have been identified and placed on treatment. And as a country, we are using some of this scientific approach to improve our response. There is also the geolocalized interventions using technology and AI-powered tools to identify high burden areas, and this is helping us achieve what we call local epidemic control. We are doing the local epidemic appraisals to understand where are these new infections coming out from. There is also the EPCOM app that is powered by ECUS that is helping to target geolocalized intervention, to target those communities where these incidents are happening, so that resources can actually be channeled into those communities. And we believe that as we move on, there is going to be a lot of improvement trying to reach those hard to reach areas and remote communities that you have just mentioned. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Isaac, just before we let you go, you mentioned something about stigma earlier, and it remains quite a huge barrier for many. What strategies work best to reduce the stigma around HIV testing and living positively with the virus? Briefly, please.
Okay, so in terms of addressing stigma, there is a lot of campaigns that is happening both at the community level and both at the structural level, that's at population level, and in terms of structural intervention as well. So awareness is also very, very key. Yes, we know that despite the fact that the level of knowledge has increased a while, and then we also have that our population is a dynamic population. It means that we need to sustain this awareness campaign, especially among young people. It's a dynamic population. A lot of young people will become 15 this year. They will want to explore. So in the next 2 years again, you see large number of young people that were children before becoming young adults. And then how do we really sustain this messaging so that for a dynamic population as such, the stigma issues are really addressed? So it means that the country is trying to use some sustainable approach to ensure that we have a lot of behavioral change communication materials disseminated across different platforms, both digital and remote platforms. Also leveraging the power of social media, influencers, and all of that. Then at structural level as well, there's a lot of training and retraining in the facility among healthcare service providers to ensure that they provide equitable and non-judgmental and friendly services to people that need these services. Then there is also the workplace policy that is actually being coordinated by NIBUCA. Private partners are also involved to ensure that persons living with HIV are not being stigmatized and are not losing their job due to their HIV status, also trying to raise that awareness to reduce stigma. Then, of course, there is the anti-stigma and discrimination law that is already being domesticated across various states right now to ensure that it's being enforced so that people living with HIV are not being stigmatized or denied of any fundamental rights due to their status. So a lot of these structural and more sustained approach are still ongoing. Then, of course, in terms of BCC material, there is a strong partnership with MTV Staying Alive Foundation to produce more BCC material. We saw all of those improvements during the MTV Sugar series. This time around, we know that young people have very short attention span, so there's already an innovation lab that is ongoing with strong technical support by NACA and other agencies to ensure that we have more short films that are really talking about addressing stigma, addressing women and girl agency, addressing sexual and reproductive health issues to ensure that people are actually taking responsibility and taking their health and leading healthy lifestyle to also address all the stigma issues around HIV. So very soon we are going to be having an improved and friendly ecosystem that is void of stigma and discrimination. Another approach again that is working. We are beginning to see persons living with HIV come out to tell their stories from lived experience, how they are doing well on treatments, which also shows that yes, living with HIV is not a death sentence. And if you are negative, it's also good that you are negative so that we don't have more persons being in that positive light because of the cost of maintaining the treatment. And of course, again, there are other prevention tools, PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. There's also PEP as well, post-exposure prophylaxis, that can help people that are negative prevent HIV infection. So all this intervention are actually being rolled out, and at the same time there is this stigma reduction component across all the various interventions to ensure that stigma is reduced. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Isaac, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with us. Today, World AIDS Day is going to be on the 1st of December. We do employ everyone to make sure to go get tested, know your status. Also, prevention, treatment, and care is not just informative, but also truly empowering. And you've done justice in talking about how treatment is, save lives, but how prevention and care is ongoing, but is also very important. Isaac Moses, once again, thank you. As the 1st of December comes on, we ask our viewers to make sure to go get tested, make sure to support each other, and don't let stigma stand in the way of health and the emotional need of others. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, we get into our last segment for the hour as a wrap-up Breakfast Extra. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back to Breakfast Extra. Our final segment for today is going to be special. Today we are addressing a deeply concerning issue that affects countless women across Nigeria. Violence against women in all its forms continues to be a major challenge. So from domestic abuse to harassment, many women face risks in their homes, workplaces, and their communities. But there's hope. Various agencies, organizations, and individuals are tirelessly working to raise awareness, provide support, and push for lasting solutions.
Today we're joined by Adiola Potts Johnson. She's a program lead for WARIF and a leading advocate and expert in women's rights and protection. She will help us understand the current state of violence against women in Nigeria, the policies in place, and what more can be done to protect women and empower communities in Nigeria. Adiola Potts Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to know, can you first of all give us an overview of the state of violence against women in Nigeria today? Are there particular regions or groups that are more affected than the other?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ajala Ford Johnson. I am the program leader at WARIF. So violence against women and girls is it's a pervasive issue here in Nigeria. 1 in 3 women would have experienced either physical or sexual violence or both. And usually perpetrated by intimate partners, or perpetrators are often known to survivors. Married women are at risk of being abused. He has no respect for age or social norms or creed or wherever social ethnicity group. Violence against women is a public health issue, and it's a complex issue because there are a lot of intricate factors that are responsible for it. So moving from societal beliefs, attitude, impunity measures, and also, of course, also have social factors that are also responsible for it. Across the country, we have it much more in the northeast because of the current insurgency. It's also high as a result of social norms and social belief system. Everywhere, including the southwest and the southeast, we also have these cases, and so women everywhere, because it's a global issue, not just in Nigeria, across the whole world. 1 in 3 women. The UN Women reports that, and it's the same as well as the Nigerian Demographic Health Survey has also reported that 1 in 3 women in Nigeria is affected by violence against women.
And what are some of the main factors we're looking at that are driving violence against women in Nigeria? Let's look at it from cultural, social, and economic factors. What are we looking at?
A patriarchal society where women are subjugated. Women are believed not to have a value without the presence of a male figure in her life. So our general belief across all our cultures in Nigeria is a woman's value, or a woman becomes of high value when she's either a wife or a mother. And then when she's that, for her to keep her home or to keep her marriage in quotes, she has to sacrifice herself. And so even when we have awareness that talk to women about how to get help, what to do to speak up, the society culture of stigma, silence, and shame, makes women keep quiet in the quote, because when she leaves or when she speaks out, she's being seen as odd. She's speaking out against societal standards that says the weight of her marriage working falls on her shoulder. And then we also have religious teachings that also subjugate women, often misconstrued by misogynists, and then we have the system that
We seem to be having issues with Adiola Ports Johnson's connectivity there. Let's try to fix it. We're on a short break. When we come back, we're going to discuss the factors in depth here with us. Don't go anywhere.
Just before we wrap things up, of course, we're having a conversation about violence against women, and we'll still have the program lead from WARIF, Adiola Johnson, here with us. Adiola, quickly before we wrap things up, can you tell us, one of the factors driving violence against women in Nigeria?
So the factors include cultural factors. We have societal norms that promote male dominance and women's subjugation. We have religious teachings that are also being misconstrued to support the same. We have in judicial system which condones impunity on part of the perpetrators. Oftentimes people feel the judicial system was slow and expensive. Sexual assault referral centers that cater. We also have issues around, beliefs and attitude within our communities, preference for male children, low education or limited access to education for girls, particularly in northern part of Nigeria. These are some of the factors that contribute violence against women and girls that are completely to the Nigerian fabric.
Right. We're now far into the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I want you to talk about the laws that exist, but also what solutions can be there to effectively enforce the laws that already exist when it comes to protecting women from violence in Nigeria. Very quickly, because we're pressed for time.
Okay, so we have the Violence Against Prohibition, the VAP Act, which is, I think it was promulgated in 2015, and it has not been domesticated in all states across Nigeria. We have good laws. We have the Lagos State Domestic Violence Law Prohibition in Lagos State. We have the Child Rights Law Act of Nigeria. We have Child Rights Law in Lagos State. These laws are in places, but oftentimes awareness is low, and even when awareness is high, the culture of stigma and shame do not allow people comfort to utilize this law. Another concern we have with the law is the fact that we have good laws, but then, having a law and implementation is a different ball game entirely. So in Nigeria, we do have good laws, but then the gap between implementation and the practice of this law is actually a gap that is quite vast. We're not where we used to be, but then we're not where we want to get to yet.
All right, thank you so much, Diola Johnson, for having this conversation with us. But before we let you go, because when we look at the situations of violence against women, most of the times, my gender, yes, we're usually responsible for things like that. What should we be telling our men in terms of, even those who are not guilty of it, what should they be looking out for? What should they be doing to help the situation?
First, I'll say stop culture of shaming, support survivors and believe them. Also be an advocate, speak up against it, practice what we preach. Oftentimes people go around saying things that you don't do. You can also speak up for girls and women. Raise your boys and raise your girls equally. They all have equal opportunities. They should have equal rights. One section will be preferred over the other. And then we together collectively and then stand and end the violence against women in our communities.
All right, and finally, let's talk about campaigns and advocacy. It's grown along the years, but do you think that it's been effective in changing the mindset and attitude towards violence against women and other genders across Nigeria? And or should we be doing more?
I believe the campaigns and advocacy have done quite a lot. We're not where we used to be. People currently will say, oh, now there are more cases. I look at it from this angle, saying there's more awareness and people are beginning to speak out more than it was in the past. And this is as a result of awareness and the campaigns and advocacy that are ongoing. However, even though we know that most advocacies and campaigns take place most times in urban centers and peri-urban centers, we still have the rural communities being left out, either as a result of limited access to digital technology or because of difficult terrain in locating them. There's more to be done, and I would say that advocacy and campaigns are currently ongoing. The 16 days activism is one. As an organization, for example, we have one on the 6th of December, the White No Tolerance March, and there are several advocacies, several awareness campaigns that have been ongoing. However, having knowledge also is quite different from attitudinal change, but then having knowledge is one thing or one factor that promotes attitudinal change. So awareness and campaigns are necessary. However, we need to do more. What is ongoing is good, but it is not the best yet.
All right. Thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate you for doing this with us. Adiola Potts Johnson, she's the program lead at WIREF, sharing her insight and just shedding light on a critical issue that affects all. Pretty much this brings us to the very end of the program this morning. It's been non-stop from insecurity to education down to health as well as awareness, just to raise awareness on issues. Chiwete's monologue was a four-part advice.
I mean, I was just taking it from that popular saying, and no be cho, just show working for Mudu Black. And I was thinking that that's what the government should do. It's beyond just saying that, people who are kidnapped are released. Take us through the process, at least. Let's see some level of transparency.
Hey, let me say this, right? Okay. As we're getting into the first week of December, there's going to be a lot of church festivals and praise and worship festival, starting
concerts,
with, you know, the one that happens at TBS, Tafawa Balewa Square. How about this year, you use all that money that you're going to fly people over with private jets and give them honorarium. How about you use it to, you know, contribute or what's the word? Donate, there we go, to those communities and families that are grappling with insecurities at this time. Just saying. How about you do that? Because that's what Jesus will do, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, cheers, eh?
Yeah.
Want to say goodbye?
Of course, we're going to see you tomorrow, bright and early, so make sure you stay tuned for that.
All right, bye for now. Make sure to join me at 12 noon for the headline, for the major news bulletin. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, Sunday morning, 8 a.m., to bring you the final installment for Breakfast Extra. Don't go anywhere. Bye for now.